Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Fire Chat Podcast. My name's Rich Rice, and I'll be your host today. And today on the show, I have Mr. Andy Teasley. Welcome, Andy.
Howdy. Good to be here.
It's good to finally have you on the show.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It's been a while since we've recorded one. So we've been on a little bit of a hiatus. I wanted to go and rework the new logo, which is up there.
Up there. Oh, well.
And, make some other adjustments here. So, and then we had Caitlin come in and kind of do like a guest host a little bit ago.
Did she interview you or just?
She interviewed Mark.
Oh.
So, because I had already done one with Mark and, then he came back a couple months later and she really wanted to interview him. She did a really good job. It's doing really well on the channel. So if you guys want to check that out too, you can check all of them out, on the YouTube channel as well. So, well, Andy, welcome. Oh, that was the one thing I forgot to tell you.
You forgot to tell me that.
Told you we're rusty. All right. Silence, please.
Fix that.
So,
that's not going to help.
It's all good. Like I said, we haven't done
New
this in a
phone
while.
sucks.
So
there we go.
you got a new phone?
Yes.
Does that mean you can install Slack now?
Yes, it's on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Andy was running out of room for a while on his phone. Anyways, so Andy, for those of you who don't know Andy Teasley, let's give me the 30-second rundown of who Andy is.
I'm Andy Teasley, California native, 6th generation. I know very little. I talk a lot.
Well, Andy's our resident creative finance wizard here at the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. He runs exchangers for us, our exchange meeting on every Wednesday, 12 to 2, and we're going to talk about that more, I'm sure.
Sure.
And you're also the wizard of wobbly boxes.
I am.
And what is a wobbly box?
A wobbly box is a note factory. They are those wonderfully factory-built homes that are disrespected in this country for I'm not sure why, but great place to live. I don't understand why anybody would want to live in a house that's hacked together in a dirt lot by a bunch of beer-swilling yahoos when they could have a nice factory-built home that arrived from a climate-controlled factory where they assembled it beautifully and made everything perfect, and then towed it behind a truck and put it where it went. I don't understand that stick-built stuff anyway.
So you said what, a note factory? What does that mean?
So people think I'm in the mobile home business, and the fact of the matter is what I really am is I'm in the note business because my business is to create notes, craft notes, get that mailbox money that comes without the 3 T's of landlording. And mobile homes are the easiest way I know to create notes that make you north of 50% cash on cash return. And I'm really gratified that my students are out there doing the business, making deals, growing things. It's amazing to me what some of these youngsters have been able to accomplish just by spending a weekend with me.
Absolutely. Myself included.
Yeah.
So, and you said the 3 T's of landlording. What do you mean by that?
Well, there are different 3 T's depending on who you talk to, but I always like tenants, turnover, and toilets. I've heard trash outfits in there somewhere, but it's aggravating when you have to deal with people calling you at 2 a.m. because you don't have enough sense to get better tenants, and that's just the reality of the way things work. If you're going to be a housing provider where you own the house and your responsibility is taking care of that house and making it 100% habitable for someone, where a good property management training will teach you to put people in there that you consider to be property managers, and their job is to take care of your house while they're enjoying living in it.
Absolutely. And I mean, you have a really, it's funny. It doesn't feel all that unique anymore because I've heard you talk about it for so long. But I know when I was first getting started in real estate that, I'd never even considered, mobile homes being let alone a note factory, let alone just being a way to invest and do things in real estate. People don't really think of mobile homes off the top of their head when they're thinking about getting into this. You see that on the shows and whatnot. They're flipping these nice, what become nice houses.
$1 million houses.
Yeah, they're not doing essentially trailers. So it's interesting. So and it's a cool niche that you've been yeah, I'm sure it doesn't seem all that niche to you either. You've been doing it for a long time.
Just a long time. Yeah. And it was new to me in like 2016, 2017, because I remember 11 and 12, I had opportunities that were just nothing. I mean, free homes that I could have done back then. And wasn't, of course, banks were giving houses away for 10 cents on the dollar in 9 and 10. And 51 doors was too many to buy those 2 years, but we pulled it off somehow and provided a lot of good housing to a lot of people. But when the market dried up and you needed a place to invest, what presented itself was manufactured homes, and it's such an amazingly easy place to start. Jimmy Napier, who was one of my educators, a good friend, we've lost him recently. He always taught us learn on little deals. You can get as much knowledge out of doing a little deal as you can out of doing a big deal, but if you make a mistake, it's a lot less painful.
Yep.
You don't have to go bankrupt and lose the family house and your car and all that stuff. If you're only into a deal $25,000, you should be able to climb your way out of that hole.
Yep.
And if you can't, you probably need to be just working at it just over broke.
That's true. And you made me think of something. We'll come back to that though. We'll stay on mobile homes for a second. So I didn't know that it was that recently.
Yeah.
I don't know why in my head I figured you've been doing this for, a lot longer. But you
Well,
used to do stick built. You did stick homes.
Sure, I've done stick
Before.
homes. Funny thing, in 2005, I made the biggest financial mistake I ever made in my life, and that is I looked at the market around me, and I said, there's going to be a crash. They're building houses that are too big, right on top of each other. My best example is Winchester, California. It is 90 minutes from a decent job in Winchester. And they were building these McMansions with 5-foot setbacks on either side, which means if you wanted to borrow sugar from your neighbor, you just rolled the window down and hollered at them, and you both stretched a lot. You could probably hand the sugar bowl back and forth. And they're huge, and they were getting phenomenal prices, but the only way they could do it was the way they were financing them, because there were crazy notes. The government came and forced builders and banks to finance people who had absolutely no business buying houses. And the only way they could do it and not get accused of redlining back in those days was to create these crazy, crazy loans. And people were just sure they could get in there, buy the house, enjoy it, and 2 years later refinance. And 2 years after that, refinance. The only problem is sooner or later, some monkey quits turning that crank and there's a crash. And I was sure it was coming. Unfortunately, I was about 3 years too early. There's something to edit. And
It's all good.
And I thought I was a genius. I was bragging about the fact that I had seen it coming and bailed out. And I'll get back to that in a minute. But what happened after I sold is I looked around for things to do, and I started buying land and lots around Southern California, mostly in Riverside County, from people who did not want to own them. I was buying them for very little cash, and then I was selling them, generally getting enough in the down payment to cover the cost of the acquisition. So that was great. I thought it was a genius then, too. Anyhow, 2008-9, the crash finally happened. And what I learned then is when you're trying to figure out what not to pay, whether it's groceries or insurance or car payments or your personal home payment, the one payment that was easy for everyone to stop paying was their note to Andy on that lot they bought that was in the path of progress.
Yeah.
Or that mountain lot where they're going to build that
dream,
cabin.
The
Right.
distant dream.
So when they didn't make payments, I gave them a phone call and I said, you going to make me foreclose, or do you want to sign a deed in lieu? And I was handed back several hundred acres of Riverside County. And a lot of it I still own. And this stupid tickle is annoying. So anyway, I end up splitting here in the conversation, the history of Andy. When I was introduced to the mobile home business, it was after the free houses from the bank situation stopped, because the free houses from the bank was awful hard to beat.
Yeah. I can imagine.
I have friends from across the country that didn't believe you could buy a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house in Southern California for $12,000 or $14,000 in 2009 and 10. But that's what I was doing back then, and it was amazing
Where
because
was that? Like the high desert, or
it was mostly
just the
Desert
Bay?
Hot Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was good neighborhoods, good commuter, working class places, decent neighborhoods with pride of ownership.
All right. So you were saying the $16,000 houses in Desert Hot Springs.
Yeah.
Um,
And basically fixing them up and getting them rented, and they were renting for north of $1,000 a month, which meant you were starting right off with a good cash flow. And so anyway, that dried up, like they always do. All right, enough contortioning. Anyhow, so that dried up. Then somebody said, well, you should go talk to Tim King. He's doing Lonnie deals in Orange County. And I talked to Tim. He told me this. He said, you got to go read this book called Deals on Wheels by Lonnie Scruggs. So I did. And when I did, I said, I know this system. It's the same system I was doing with land. You buy something cheap, you sell it with seller carryback financing, and you try to get your down payment to cover your cost. And that gives you basically infinite return. So when I did, so I understand the system, and I started getting into mobile homes, and from 2017 to now, it's pretty much been my entire focus.
Wow. I did not know that. I know Tim King, and I did not know that he was the he was the one that got you into mobile
catalyst.
homes. Yeah, it's so funny because I've talked to him, many times, and it's funny from, like I said, from my point of view, it's like, in my mind, you've always done mobile homes. It says, you didn't have a life before I knew you, right? So, so that's cool. So, I just thought, for whatever reason, I just thought you've been doing it a lot longer. And I know you've talked about, different deals, and, and you've done many things throughout your life.
Oh, I get bored easy.
Yeah, I know the feeling. So, before real estate, I like to talk about, financial independence through real estate is kind of the podcast here. So like before you got into real estate and whatnot, was there a driver there for wanting financial independence? Or, because I know you correct me if I'm wrong, you used to run all kinds of stuff. You used to run
crazy
carnivals.
stuff.
You used to use
Yeah.
So where did the catalyst for you go when you started into real estate?
So believe it or not, my first mentor when I was a teenager was a good friend of my dad's, who was a staunch conservative, a very active John Birch Society member. And he really spent a lot of my teenage life trying to convince me that ownership was irrelevant and control was everything, which I didn't get until after he had passed on. And somewhere along the line, I figured that out. But he really instilled in me the drive to be self-employed. My dad was always kind of a repressed entrepreneur, in that when he had met my mom, he was in the Air Force. He had already bought the land in Porterville to build his miniature golf course, because in the 50s, that was a really interesting thing to do and start. And yeah, they were really
why there's so
popular
many of
back
them?
then. Back then,
There's still, I mean,
there's a few.
seems like there's a lot of them still.
You
Was
think
there
about this, like the one that's up in Big Bear. Little 18-hole, very simple. That was your typical miniature golf course, not the giant things like Castle Park.
Oh, okay.
Much more like that, and they were popping up in every city because entertainment was not what it is right now.
Yeah, apparently it used to be one in Crestline. Somebody was telling me the other. It's the Ace Hardware now, the Garden Center, but it used to be a mini golf.
Oh, they were everywhere. I mean, it's great entertaining and there's so many family activities that are wonderful. Computer in infected society is just it's just not out there for us. Here we are talking on a computer. But funny thing, when Katie, my daughter, was 9, 10, somewhere in there, maybe about 11, we took her back to Disney World because I'd never been. And somewhere along there, it dawned on me how the most magical thing about Disneyland back then was the fact that you were stuck in these long cattle trough lines for so long, and you had nothing to do but actually talk to your family. There was no television to distract you. You could watch people, and there was some stuff to look at, but really you had to talk to your family. And last time I was at an amusement park, it floored me that just like everywhere else in our society, everyone there is doing this.
Mm-hmm. And now they got all TVs in line and, and all that. And they're serving food and.
Yeah, I mean, they did food and they had jugglers and all that stuff, but I mean, you didn't have that distraction of the internet. So it's funny, we joke. Those of us that are our age joke at people that are younger than you. You see two of them in a nice restaurant having a date, and they're texting each other across the table because they don't know how to talk.
Well, they're probably texting each other.
Yeah, that's my point. They don't know how to talk.
All right, so your dad was building. Your dad was. I want to hear the story.
Oh,
your
so
dad was.
See, I get distracted.
Your dad was building mini golfs.
No, he was gonna.
Oh, okay, he was going.
He bought the land. He knew the place, and it was in a town where his family had lived on and off over the years. But then he fell in love with my mom, and she declared that he was going to go to school and get a degree. So they got married. They went up to Northern California. They both went to Humboldt State, and he got his degree and became an elementary school teacher. And, of course, the land was sold to help pay for – I think they sold the land to buy the 21-foot travel trailer they lived in for their first 2 years of college. So he was always a little repressed at that, and I was always encouraged to do that. It's been a long time since I've had one of those just over broke things and depended on answering to one guy instead of a whole flock of clients and customers. So I've always been entrepreneurially bent.
Don't like a job.
Yeah. So
Just over broke.
after I got out of Cal Poly, I bought a restaurant. That was stupid.
What kind of restaurant was it again?
It was a chicken restaurant. It was the last Pail of Chicken franchise store in the country. It was Southern California-based chain back in the days. My partner and I at the time had run the soccer fields in Riverside, 15 fields down there, and every Saturday we would have all the business we could handle. And because I'd worked with that gentleman, I knew how to buy stuff and how to run a snack bar and how to make money when your food cost is 15 to 25%. It's pretty easy to make a good profit. And our rent there was based on our gross, and a lot of the overhead pain that you have in a regular restaurant was not our problem there.
Yeah.
When we bought the restaurant, it's chicken, which is a meat store, and the price of chicken fluctuates amazingly. So 1 week you can have 30% food cost, and the next week you can have 90% food cost. It's awful hard to keep the doors open when that's happening.
Sure, yeah.
So took 2 years.
Think about like what eggs did this year.
Yeah, cost us $70,000 in 2 years, but I call that my MBA.
Yeah, sure.
Got really bored of sitting in the same place 7 days a week, open to close. That was not my thing. So, long story short, I started a Carnival. The same partner, we built it up. At the end, it had 6 big adult rides, 6 kid rides, the rental booths, booked on professional games, food wagon that traveled with us, basically everything you needed to do your standard issue community festival or your church festival.
Yeah.
We were working about 40 weeks a year, which is a lot of work when you think about it, and it's a 7-day-a-week job. Got
you were
married.
Constantly setting up and tearing down, and it wasn't just the carnival itself.
Right. The 2.5 days you're actually open are the easiest part of the gig.
Yeah, I bet.
And of course I had to sell it, and it actually developed a lot of good skills for me. I learned how to deal with people, employees and customers much better. Wife said, if you want kids, you're getting out of that crazy business. So at that time, one of my friends in that industry offered to trade his granddad and dad's holiday decorating equipment. He had actually mothballed their factory, had it all packed in a 53-foot furniture van. So I traded a ride that he liked for his holiday decorating factory.
That's where it all started.
And started doing holiday decorating.
That's where the trading was. That your first big trade?
No, I've been trading a long time.
I was like, I'm trying to find the origin story here of exchangers.
Oh, that comes. So anyway, Built that business up. We were hanging 5,000 pole decorations in 4 states before the crash. Great
Wow.
business as long as you don't mind 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, October, November, and January.
Hmm.
And it allowed me to spend a lot more time with my daughter than most dads,
Hmm.
because those 9 months when I wasn't really doing much work, I was really there in her life, and I'm glad I had that time.
That's cool.
Um, and while I was there looking for something to do in the off season to bring in some extra cash, I got introduced to the barter industry, and I had a barter card franchise for a couple of years, and through that, I was introduced to a gentleman who did personal property exchanging. His name was Spud Barrett, and every other month, every quarter, we'd get together and bring people together who had stuff, and we would trade all kinds of different stuff. And I learned more skill sets in the exchanging then, and that's another step in my education. I'm always trying to learn. As you know, I tend to go to a real estate class at least once a month, if not twice, just to learn new skills and get introduced to people and different ideas.
Yeah.
So, but
And
that's
that's important. I mean, we're going to talk about that tonight. Actually, we're doing an event tonight focusing on mindset,
yeah.
and one of them is always be learning. I think that's always
I'm
a
always
valuable thing.
I'm always floored when I meet somebody and I'm encouraging them to go take some class, and they go, "Oh, I've had one of the big dollar gurus. I know everything I need to know."
Mm.
And I tell them, "Do you know Peter Fortunato?" "Well, yeah, I know Peter Fortunato." And I said, "Do you think he is probably the most creative person in our industry? Do you think that he knows what he needs to know?" And everybody's, "Yeah, he knows it." And I said, "Do you realize that he has been in a class
Mhm.
studying real estate or a technique at least once a month since 1969, with the exclusion of the beginning of the COVID debacle when we thought it was going to be all over in a couple of weeks. And for several months, there was no opportunity for
Mhm.
education until we all learned how this Zoom world works. So, yeah, you got to keep
Pete's
learning.
always the one. I've been in a few classes with him when he wasn't teaching, and he's always the one. I mean, he's fiercely taking notes. He's got his highlighters out. I mean, he looks like a seventh grade student, like with the highlighters and everything, and it's fantastic. I wish I had that type of you know. I feel like Pete should just teach a class one time on just note taking,
Yeah.
like
It,
because it's phenomenal to watch him just learn. You
you know,
know.
our mutual friends, Vina and Matt,
Hmm.
actually had scheduled a commercial scanning machine rental for his house. And they got there to prepare about a week ahead of time.
Hmm.
And they thought they were going to come in and scan his collection of course manuals, because he has almost every course manual back to 1969.
Wow, man.
And what they found out is that there was no way to do that on a commercial scanning machine, because there was too much sticky notes and stuff
And
in
too
the
many of his own notes.
that's it. The
Wow.
only way to scan that is to actually do the entire collection, and we're talking north of 1,000 course manuals on a flatbed scanner, because you
Yeah,
could
just
not
one
use
at
a
a time.
document feeder. It would just be impossible. And if
Wow.
you were to yank all the sticky notes, he'd get pissed off at you.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a
Yeah,
so
we have to talk because now, how long ago was that?
oh, not too long ago, probably
Yeah,
three,
because
4 years.
now they got some apps that are fantastic where you just take pictures, boom, boom, boom. You can literally just hold your camera right here
Yeah,
and just turn the page, and then it'll assemble all of it
interesting.
into a PDF. So I might have to fly out to Florida.
Oh, talk to Vina and Matt. They'll fund the deal,
So
because
yeah.
that is just such an amazing wealth. And if you ever, just so you know, before Gene came back, he had an open door policy, and there was always somebody in there, and it was always fun to go and just randomly pull a class manual out from the past and go through it
Yeah, I'm sure.
and
I'm
see
sure.
what his impressions were of that educator and what he was talking about
Mhm.
that time. So a
He
lot
even
of
he even saved the ones he didn't like. Well, maybe there wasn't any that he didn't like, but
I see.
you know.
I can't imagine. I would expect he probably would save all of them, even the ones he hated, and then in them would be all the places where he thought they were wrong, and he had probably shared them all with that instructor. So
Right on. Right on.
yeah, I never
Well,
have
Pete,
minded criticism from him.
yeah. Has he taken your class?
He started.
He started.
He was commuting back in the COVID days, and he was commuting from up north back to Florida.
Mhm.
And in the middle of the Saturday class, he'd been in there for a couple 3 hours doing the calculator stuff because
Mm.
he was learning how to run 10B because he's not a big calculator fan. He uses it some,
Really?
and he
Interesting.
actually blew right past his exit. So in the middle of class, he goes, "Oh, damn, I missed my exit." and, and somewhere along the line, he got disconnected by the system,
Mhm.
and he didn't get back in. So he's taken a part of my class.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
It's never worked out to get him back in again. So
I guess I didn't really. Yeah, when you come into this from a certain perspective, and then you are a certain time, and you see all these, people that have been around a while, and I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that Pete's not a big calculator fan.
oh,
And now that I think about it, yeah, I've taken multiple classes from him, and I don't think he's ever pulled out the financial calculator
no,
in any of them. So
he acts like he never uses it, but I know better.
yeah, he's a closet calculator.
That's it. That's it. So what's the junk food junkie?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
the
Just
the secret hideaway shelf with the lockbox in
Stashing
it, full of Twinkies. Yeah, that's Pete and the calculator.
That's funny. That's funny. So he just has a different way of figuring out if it's a deal for him. He just picks a number or what?
Well, no, he has an amazing mind,
Mhm.
and he's really good at estimating.
Hmm.
And he's always given us a hard time because he'll estimate something in class, and they'll say, "Yeah, I know." And now all you calculator guys will say, "No, it's not 600. It's 599.35," which
Yeah.
is
Good
pretty
enough.
much exactly what the payment is on a 30-year 6% $100,000 loan.
Mhm.
But I spent most of my investing career not knowing how to use the calculator, and I was really good at knowing that for $600 a month, I could borrow $100,000 at 6%.
Mhm.
And I was really good at knowing a handful of things and just applying them and multiplying them. And I was really good at good enough.
Mhm.
Since someone said, "Oh, you got to take Bill Tan's calculator class," and I took it, and the light bulb went on. I've been using the heck out of that tool ever since. And
Yeah. When did you take Bill's class?
I'm not sure.
I
There
wasn't
was
sure.
this
I didn't
big
even know why.
COVID thing in the middle of it that messed with us. I really don't know. Had to be before 17, maybe
Hmm.
13, 14 in there somewhere.
Yeah.
That's when I met him. That was kind of funny because we're sitting there and it gets to time to be lunch, and he says, "Andy, you and I are having lunch together." I said, "Okay." And he was trying to figure out how we had not met each other all these years because I was there speaking his language, and I had never bumped. And mostly that was because I was an indirect student of the Jack Miller School because I had learned most of my knowledge from the personal property exchange world and all the people that overlapped from the Millerite world into the personal
Mhm.
property exchanging world. And it was amazing how that knowledge got to me secondhand mostly.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And again, I'm like shocked to hear you say that you weren't really using the calculator. Like, I mean, you were, but you really like dove into it not that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess 2017 is a little longer in my head than it seems. It seems like it was a year or two
It's
ago.
that 3
Yeah.
3 year missing chunk in all of our lives.
Yeah, pretty much. But
Yeah.
it's I mean, that was what, 7 years ago now. So
Yeah.
8 years
Trust
ago?
me, the grayer you get, the faster the
Yeah.
years go.
So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm starting to, definitely experience that. So
So
I've been experiencing it for a while. I'm not that young, but like it's just, it's weird. It's weird how it's like, things that, we talk about, me and my brother and, some other people talk about this before. It's like, high school just seemed like it took forever. Like, I mean, I just couldn't wait to get out of high school
Oh, yeah.
and just start my life. Like I was just ready to So yeah, I worked all through high school, so I was kind of grew up a little fast, and and just I mean, freshman year just felt like it was an eternity compared to, you know, I mean, I've been in real estate longer than I've been I was in high school. It feels like,
Well, at
and that
least,
feels like
yeah.
like I feel like I flipped my first house like yesterday, and it's been 7 years. It's just odd the way, time feels, I guess. And
Trust
you
me, it
know,
gets worse.
really,
Yeah.
so how do we slow it down?
I can't remember. I can't imagine that in 2 months my dad's going to turn 91. I was amazed when he turned 90 a year ago. It's just time flies so fast.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. By the way, let's go back to where I diverged, and I
Okay.
will explain that in 2012, a good friend pointed out the fact that I was not the genius I thought I was, because he said at the time, he said, "Okay, Andy, the last couple 3 years you bought over 51 doors of rental," and I said, "Yeah, did pretty good."
Mhm.
And he said, "How many of those doors would you have?" Would you not be able to have purchased if you hadn't sold the inventory in 2005?
Mm.
And I put some serious thought into that, and I thought about it for a while. And what I decided was I could have bought every one of those 51 doors. And the money I made in 2005 selling houses that I thought I didn't want to keep through the crash didn't benefit me at all.
Hmm.
And what I know is that if I had not made that mistake, I would have, back in 2012, been $2 million richer than I was at that point. And that would be exponentially more now,
Yeah.
12 years
Absolutely.
later.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
So if I understand this correctly, like you sold a bunch of you sold a bunch of stuff in 2005 a little early, like before
I should have never sold it at all.
it should just and wrote it down and then wrote it all the way back
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
And
they were paying the bills back then.
yeah, there was no, there was no. That's interesting. That's interesting that it was because I
Well,
think all of us would probably say like, and you probably did too. Where you're like, no, I just sold it and made a ton of money and then I bought a
I
bunch
was
of
a
stuff cheap.
genius. Yeah,
And well, I'd say you definitely didn't lose.
I did. Like I said, in 2012, when my friend was giving me crap, grief, sorry, podcast world,
Yeah.
um, I realized he was right.
Yeah.
I would be in 2012, a dozen years ago, I would have another $2 million in equity than I have now if I had not sold those good performing rental houses.
Yeah.
I had good notes on them. It's not like when the crash happened, I needed to refinance every couple of years like the people with the comedy loans.
Mhm.
I've always been a fixed rate borrower.
How would you know though that how many houses are we talking?
Oh, 18.
18. So how would you know that? I'm just curious. Like, I mean, there's a lot of variables there. I mean, I get what you're saying, but like, how would you know that like those 18 tenants that you had or 18 residents that you had, all of would have kept their jobs and you wouldn't have had to deal with,
Well, they wouldn't. I would have had to replace them.
and
But
I guess what you're saying. Yeah, I get it.
I mean,
Yeah, never sell ever.
yeah. And, I mean, the only excuse to sell a good performing rental house is if some reason you hate the neighborhood, you have a problem that you can't fix. And fixing a tenant that's unemployed is a pretty easy problem to fix. And 9 and 10, rents didn't go down. The economy was in the toilet. Everyone was losing houses. And when you lose your 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 4-bedroom, 2-bath house that's your dream home that you bought for, 150% of value, borrowed 125% of the purchase price
Yep.
at this ridiculous, crazy loan. And then when it came time to refinance, because you had to, because you couldn't afford when the rent adjusted up or the mortgage adjusted up, you had to move into a rental.
Yeah.
And you moved into a good rental house with a landlord, and those people got bumped down to the second rate stuff, and those people got bumped down. So, and I've always been in affordable housing, and quite frankly, there's always demand for affordable housing. If the economy's bad, people are coming down and having to take it. If the economy's good, they're moving out of mom's basement and getting out on themselves because they can afford to.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have been able to keep all those houses through the crash.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's, and I mean, it doesn't sound like you, I mean, there might be a little tinge of like missed opportunity there,
It's just
but,
dumb.
but do you actually like, do you actually regret it? Or is it more of like,
Do
that's
I
an interesting
regret it, or
thought?
do I let it bother me?
Yeah, I guess both.
So I regret. I should have never sold those houses. It was a mistake. But then something that I teach anyone that I really care about, quite frankly, is that you have to learn to own your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
If you run from your mistakes, if you pretend that you're perfect, you will never accomplish much in this world.
Mm-hmm.
People that do that are the people who are always trying to blame someone else.
Mm-hmm.
They're depending on the government to take care of them and all the other things, the envy and theft crowd. That's the way their brains work. I own my mistakes. Lord knows I've made a lot of them. But I did. And I've made mistakes, and I've solved those problems the best I could. I don't think I've ever done anybody wrong enough to where I really damaged anyone in my life. And if I did, I'm sorry. And if I did, you should come say hi to me and say, hey, remember me, you bastard. I might disagree with your analysis of the situation, but we can certainly have a conversation.
Yeah, no, that's a good life lessons. Own your, own it.
Yeah.
There's nobody, there's nobody it's respect. We talk about it. We just talked about it. Your reputation. We're in fire. We're doing this boot camp, the 6-week boot camp where we got 30 people all working together to find a deal. And one of the main things, I haven't rolled it out to the club as a whole, but we called it I put it in there called like the tribe code. And it was all about, like doing what you say and following through and really just like being, honest and your reputation is everything in this.
I agree.
It's a lot. It may seem like there's a ton of investors out there, but I mean the four real ones that are the pool's not that small, or not that big. Sorry, it's not that big. Like there's a very the circle is smaller than you think. And
of successful investors.
Yeah, just people that are doing this and know each other. It's like it's not big of a crowd, and word travels fast. Of if you don't do what you say you do, or you're actively screwing people over or anything like that. We put it in the code that like these 30 people are working together and we're sharing leads. We're putting the addresses out and we're all working them together basically.
That's the secret to success.
So yeah, definitely, I respect that.
It's funny. My wife gives me a hard time. She doesn't lately, but a couple of years ago, she was giving a hard time because she said, you got to quit teaching people how to flip mobile homes in Southern California because you're training your competition. And as you know, I focus right now on one 1,800 unit subdivision. Mm-hmm. And in that 1,800 unit subdivision, Nick Lawson has houses. Omar has houses. Mm-hmm. Jose has houses. Cantu has houses. Mm-hmm. Mick Blackwell had houses in there. SUNY has houses in there. There are 7 or 8 people in my investment world who all have houses in that one 1,800 unit subdivision.
That's awesome.
And I have 31 of them in there, which is more than I need. And speaking of reputation, I have a reputation of being that crazy guy in the neighborhood who overpays. So when somebody dies and their kid calls their mom's friend is most likely one of the 20 widows in there that will all tell them, well, if you want to sell the house, you got to call Andy because he pays more than anybody and you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to clean out the fridge. He'll take it just as is, where is, and give you more than anybody else will. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good reputation to have. My marketing budget is goose egg. I don't do any marketing to buy houses.
Yeah.
The phone just rings.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Yeah.
You don't need to. Well, we had that same conversation. We were, when we started doing stuff up in Crestline years ago, there wasn't much competition. There wasn't many people up there. Yeah. And not that we're like the sole reason people are up there, but we definitely been talking about it, for a long time. And there's definitely more competition up there. But it's, the more people that buy houses up there and the more people that work on houses and make them nicer and there's more comps, the better we're at it now, our margins are a lot better now. And, and then even like you said, in the rental market, it doesn't hurt,
No,
it's, if somebody beats me, it's okay. There's 20,000 other houses up there. It's all right.
if you if
Yeah.
you if every offer you make succeeds, you're offering too much.
Yeah. True.
And so I expect to get a no every now and then.
Mhm.
They're getting much rarer. I mean, but then I'm pickier than I was back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're talking, we like, again, in Firefast, we've been talking about, just finding deals and rapport building and, and really it all comes down to rapport building. And we focus on that so much. And you have built, yourself, like almost like this enigma, I'm sure, in the, where you already have the rapport. I mean, that's ideal. You have the rapport before you even,
Yeah.
show up to the conversation, you know, I
I've,
mean, you can't, referral and stuff like that's always going to be, better than anything, but
I've spent a lot of time in a lot of little old lady houses drinking awful coffee and looking at tchotchkes.
yep.
I always teach my students, I say, plan a 90-minute warm up. You want to spend enough time to where that seller wants to adopt you before you start negotiating on that
Yep.
house. And if
I like
you
that.
can attain that level of camaraderie and common goal, then you will get a much better deal on every house
Yep.
you try
I
to.
like that 90-minute warm up. Yeah. I like that. And I even told people, we were talking about this stuff. It was like, be genuine. Like don't just do it just to make the deal. Like if you are like, I think the people, and obviously, will always be learning and Pete and stuff. It's like, we're genuinely interested in people and their stories and their, I like hearing about people's collections and stuff that I didn't know of and, past, past history and how people got to be the way they are. I'm just a naturally curious person. So, um, it definitely helps. I think that's why I've probably always been good in sales, is just because I can talk to anybody,
Yeah.
so, um,
The trick is to be able to carry on a conversation about something that completely disinterests you and make it seem like it's really interesting to you.
yeah, I'm just always interested.
That's okay. Let's talk about garden gnomes for the next hour and a half.
I bet you there's something about garden gnomes that I don't know.
Well, there
And,
probably is, but
we might bore our listeners, but we'll save that for the next one.
yeah, not my thing.
So, but there's it's funny. I'm not going to tell the story. Never mind. That'll bring us down a random tangent. So
What's life without random tangents?
yeah. So how much time we got here? So, all right. So, you have a class coming up.
I do.
You're an
This might not
instructor.
get out first.
It might. We might be able
Okay.
to rush it before the.
I could squeeze a few
before the
more in on
weekend,
a Zoom class.
But how long have you been doing that class now?
Oh, geez. 6 years, 7 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Right on. So, and you go over the day ones, like kind of the financial calculator. You call it the
Well, the time machine.
time
Yeah.
machine.
When I started, I just taught notes and mobile home flipping
Hmm.
because that's really my niche. But I figured out that I was wasting half of my class time teaching the financial calculator.
Hmm.
So the next thing I did is I scheduled my Sunday class behind Bill Tan's Saturday class or Buddy Broom's Saturday class because they're both very good calculator instructors.
Hmm.
Well, Bill Tan 1 year flooded his house 3 times. He was just not having a good year, and they found asbestos, and he was just living with stuff in the garage. Anyway, so he wasn't teaching. Buddy's kids got to that age where they needed more of his time, and his wife said, "Look, you just can't have all day Saturday away from the kids. There's soccer games and all that stuff." So he wasn't teaching, and I finally had to give up and start teaching the calculator. And since I started, I have so much fun teaching it because we all teach in a different way. I can't wait to see how yours comes out.
It's funny you were telling the story of how you ended up teaching the calculator. And I'm sitting here going, "Oh yeah, that's kind of why I'm going to start teaching it."
Yeah. You might find out it's a lot of fun.
So, yeah, we'll see.
So, yeah, I teach calculator, and then I teach notes and tricks for mobile home flipping and all the paperwork. And it's coming up on Zoom the 27th and 28th of January, which is, a couple of days away. And if you hear this before then, you're welcome to come.
And if you hear it after, he'll probably do it again.
I teach about every 6 weeks somewhere. In February, I'm teaching on a cruise, which is nice. March, I'm looking for some place to teach. We'll see where I land. April, I'm on another cruise and teaching in Columbus.
There you go. There you go.
So
we're going to do a big, we haven't announced it yet, but we're going to do a big in July, right?
The Mobile Home Palooza. We
Mobile
haven't
Home
figured out
Palooza
the
or
name
Mobile
yet.
Home Fest or
Mobiles to Millions,
Beauties
I
and
think,
the
is what we may
Beauty
choose.
and the Beasts or something was Venus' recommendation. So we're going to do one with you, Farrah Lane, and Adrian Smoot.
Yeah.
So,
It's going to be fun because,
smack down between the three of them.
the neat thing is that we're all three successful and we all three think the other ones are doing it wrong. But that's what makes it interesting. There's always different ways to accomplish goals.
Yeah.
So, and we all like each other. So,
Absolutely. So, you've had, I mean, I know, a lot of them are club members where, you've had people learn how to do this stuff that have never done a deal. And now they're some of the most, kind of savvy investors I know. So
I don't know which make me prouder. The kids like Rodolfo, who take my class, go out on Tuesday, buy their first mobile home, clean it and sell it the next week for a note that's 5 times what they have in it. Or if it's ones like my friend Dave, who had taken every freaking course, he had taken hundreds, he'd spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on classes and had not pulled the trigger and done his first deal. And I'm so proud of both of those classes of people, the ones that took my class and finally were inspired to go out and take action. And the kids, I mean, the kids, they're active in our club here and they amaze me. I wish I had this knowledge when I was 20. I don't know what, I'd probably just be on my yacht right now.
Yeah, likewise.
But not that I need a yacht. It's a hole in the
Everybody
water and
needs a yacht.
bust out another 1,000, right?
You got
anyway.
enough notes coming in. It's okay.
Yeah, I suppose. The other thing that I do want to share with everyone out there is I do publish a free weekly newsletter. It's called The Weekly What If. If you send an email to Andy, the Christmas Guy at yahoo.com, requesting my newsletter, I will happily get it to you. It's free. That means it's priceless. Comes out every Sunday. It will give you 3 calculator questions, the answer to last week's 3 calculator questions, upcoming vetted education. As someone who's an active educator, a friend of investors, there are some really, really evil people selling classes, and I dislike those people a lot, and I promote people that are not those people. Absolutely. And if you want that list of good classes, you get my newsletter. And the third thing that comes in there is exchange meetings, like the one we have here every Wednesday at noon Pacific time, where you can come and learn and do deals and understand structure and how to make things happen. And I'm so proud of the Wednesday meeting here. I enjoy the Thursday meeting out of St. Petersburg. And, of course, Venus Friday morning meeting is a lot of fun as well. They all accomplish the same goal in different ways. They each have a different flavor. Ours here, we jump right into deals within, we get started at noon, and by 10 minutes after noon, we are doing deals. There are things going on the board, and usually before 12:30, we've got our first big green line. That means somebody has said yes to an offer. What did we do today? 14?
Yeah, I think you said 15. That was,
15?
I think that's a record.
Really?
If I think.
Oh, we've got to have done more than that at least once.
50, well, I mean, if you count the ones that where there was 9 people jumped in on one
Hey,
note.
everything counts.
I mean, no, I'm saying I mean like separate deals that were separate structures. I think that was the highest individual, different deals that we did that weren't intertwined with other ones.
Turned out to be. It seemed quiet. It started quiet, and then it caught fire, and we got a lot of stuff done.
And I got to say, man, I mean that I don't know if, those listening or, or if even a lot of people in the club kind of know where that started. Um, we, we pretty much, we pretty much like rebuilt the club, on the back of exchangers, and, then we did Sir Catch's Roundtable and the Mission Inn and stuff too. But I remember, when I first took over the club, you were like, we got to do an exchange meeting. And I was like, yeah, Andy. Like, what? Like, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, you're telling me, and he was like, we put, exchange property. And, back then, we didn't have nearly as many members. We were still very like newbie heavy. And I remember you still talking about it. And then we went to Florida. We just happened to
you went to Denny's.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We went to, that was 2020. It was like after all the madness had kind of cooled down a little bit. It was November of 2020. Florida was kind of the hotbed of letting people get together.
Yep.
And, I flew out there, me, Evan. I don't know if my mom went to that one. I don't think so. Me, Evan, and you went to, it wasn't Denny's. It was some random other diner that was, I don't think they had done it that long there. But it was like that happened to be open during COVID. So we went there. And
I thought maybe you might have done it in Pete's house.
No.
We did it at Pete's house a lot during COVID. We'd take everybody that was in town for class, and we'd end up at Pete's house in his living room.
No, it was on, I think it was after the class. It was either that Monday or Tuesday. And yeah, it was just some random, I don't even remember the name of the diner, but, and we just kind of sat on the patio, and, and it's nothing like our exchange meeting.
No.
The
Technology.
kind of, but, the basis of it is, but, we just sat out there, and I just, everyone was trading properties, like, and so I got this 3-2, and, I want to trade for this in St. Petersburg. I got this thing in Orlando, and I want to trade it for whatever in St. Petersburg. And I just remember being like, all right, I get it. I get it.
Glad you got it.
Like I get it now. And part of what I wanted to change at the club too was really start to figure out a way to attract more people that were not just beginners, but that were actually, doing deals, and some more seasoned investors also. And what that meeting showed me was like, that's how we got to do it. Like, we gotta do deals in the club that are going to attract, that are big deals, like not just, go out and find me a deal and bring it to me and we'll JV on it. Like, which we will do also, but really get it done. And man, that meeting has blown up. So thank you for prodding me for so long to do that. So,
and we do a lot of business. I enjoy it. I got a Datsun today.
I heard
a collectible.
I heard.
Yeah. I don't think I can.
And you sold my house to get it.
I did.
That's all right. I really wasn't that excited.
Very excited about it. I know. You flipper brain people.
Little outside my wheelhouse. Well, no, just the location. I'm trying to be like Andy, where I want my stuff in the mountains that I can walk to everything, and Desert Hot Springs is a little, or what, 1,000 Palms is a little far for me.
Yeah, it's funny. I decided that Blythe was too far away back in the day. And I got up during Haves and Wants at Mission Inn in the aviator's room. And I stood up for Haves and Wants, and I went and sat down. And as soon as I sat down, Jeremy Gang came up and gave me one of these. And so we ended up out in the courtyard by the fountain. Mm-hmm. And he handed me a check for exactly what I'd asked for and said, we'll work it out tomorrow. And I felt like I'd lost 50 pounds. Man, I was so glad to be out of Blythe. And he was so happy.
He tried to sell me this house like a few years later.
Because he bought a bunch of stuff down there, and he is doing the same darn thing. And he actually approached me about a year and a half, and wanted to walk the mortgage on a house I had sold him in Desert Hot Springs. And because he's trying to get everything within his little sphere.
Trying to bring everything closer to here. Yep.
I guess the older we get, the more we like not having to go very far.
Yeah, and I mean, I was lucky enough that I listened to you guys, and was able to do it, and just kind of, just went with that. I literally can walk to everything, and it's the exception of one. It would be a long walk, but I could do it. It might take me half the day, but I could get there.
Yeah, well,
So, but anyway, so again, like I said, thanks for, prodding on exchangers, because it's really, it's a great meeting.
thanks for hosting.
It's thank you. It's taken a lot of, oh man, it would have been a lot easier to just put a conference phone in the middle of the room. But I think I'm really proud of how we do it, and, what we do. And, it's exciting. It's exciting, being able to do the board, and, get everybody in there, and just making deals. I mean, people walk in the door and they're just like, they're either like blown away or terrified,
Or both.
or both at the same time,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
So
It's so much fun, and it's so nice, because before we were looking at doing the restaurant in Fullerton where Mark had his thing. We were there.
oh, the Italian place.
Yeah, the Italian place, and Greg Walden was saying that's great, because they can all the people from LA can jump on the train and ride the train there, so they don't have to commute. And that was where we were working on getting it set up there, but I really didn't want to have to go into Fullerton to do exchangers. Riverside's enough of a hump.
Or go to the spaghetti factory.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway,
Right on.
we have great fun. We do a lot of business. I love exposing people to the wonderful world of exchanging, because
Absolutely.
something happens in junior high school, and I don't understand what. But when you're in elementary school and starting in junior high school, we trade for everything. You trade parts off your bicycles back and forth, and I love those knobby wheels. Exchanging is just a natural part of life. At least it was when I was growing up.
Yeah, you trade Pogs and Pokemon cards.
Oh, boy.
Baseball cards.
Now you're dating yourself.
all
Baseball
kinds of
cards.
stuff. Yeah.
I've traded for a lot. I've taken baseball cards for down
Hey,
payments.
all
on
that
land.
stuff coming back, man. I heard Pogs are back.
Well,
I don't know. I'm making stuff up. So yeah, right on. Well, if you want to check out exchangers, how do we do that?
we go to www.iereic.org, because Lord knows we don't make any profits. And come join us. We've got a great club. I think we've got the best club in Southern California. We certainly got the most active club in Southern California. We can't claim to have the most active club in the country, because that would be entirely too much work. And
Not yet.
Venus got a full freaking staff to take care of that where she is. So I'll let
I
her
don't think
keep
there's
that
any
title.
reason that we can't. I mean, we're in Southern California after all.
Well, that's true.
We got more people in Ohio.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
But
But,
more. Oh, we're on our way. Maybe the week is. We're only doing Wednesdays right now. Think about if we did Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm just kidding. I'm not throwing that out there. I don't want to do Mondays.
It is awful nice to just
like my
have
Mondays.
Wednesdays.
Yeah. So we
Weird
do
thing
real
is-
estate day now at the. We used to do exchangers on Thursday. Now we're doing them on Wednesdays. We have our fire focus events 6 to 8 o'clock every Wednesday. So we just call it real estate day now.
Yeah.
Wednesday's real estate day in Riverside. So like he said, check it out on the website, iereic.org. You can also check out this podcast, past recordings. Check out our YouTube channel. We got all kinds of, free education on there that we recorded in the past from our past events, and other podcasts and stuff from, even before my time in the club. So there's a ton of content on there. And then once again, Andy, how do people get a hold of you if they'd like to?
My email is Andy the Christmas Guy, all spelled out, because I don't like that Xmas thing, at yahoo.com, because I'm old. Or my phone number, which rings in my pocket, is 760-343-2404. And once again, if you can't write that fast, it's 760-343-2404.
Right on. That nasty technology, they can rewind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Andy. It's been great to have you on the show. This has been the Fire Chat Podcast, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks,
right.
everybody.
Bye, y'all.
All right.